Alright guys, this week's episode is brought to you by Rockstar Energy Drink. It is the official energy drink of the Cine-Men Movie Podcast, available in over 20 different flavors in 30 different countries. Try your flavor today, from the killer grape all the way to the new hardcore green apple. It's the active energy drink for people who live active lifestyles. Get you a can and celebrate with the Cine-Men Movie Podcast.
A martini, shaken not stirred.
I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
Houston, we have a problem.
Do or do not. There is no try.
Nobody puts baby in a corner.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Keep your friends close, but your enemies closer.
I'm your number one fan.
And here we go.
Happy Monday, moviegoers, and welcome to this week's episode of the Cine-Men Movie Podcast. Joined alongside here with Zach.
What's going on, guys?
Ed, how you doing?
Hey, pretty good. Yourselves?
Not too bad.
Good deal.
Been a long week.
Yeah.
Excited though. It's a new episode. It's new Monday. A lot of praise for last week's episode. Actually brought back the out of the box meme. I don't know if you guys have heard, but a lot of people like that Brad Pitt scene.
Yeah, it is pretty funny. It's got its recent things in current culture, so we'll see.
Joker has hit record numbers for a bonus episode. So we're at 302 as of this morning for the Joker.
Very nice, very nice.
And then right behind it is Seven, sitting at 262. And these are just downloads, guys. So we're ready. We're happy. Thank you, everybody. I'm pumped. I'm ready. You guys hear what says Lenny Kravitz's daughter is on board to be the Catwoman in the Batman movie.
Oh, nice.
Really?
Yeah. So there's my DC plug for the week.
Of course.
But guys, we're talking Saw today, and it's episode 58, and we're talking the original Saw from 2004.
2004.
But yeah, it's good. What about you guys? Good week?
Oh, not too bad. Just caught up on Letterkenny. The show released its new season today, so catch that if you are into that show. Ups and downs on that one. Really good though. Yeah.
And then for everybody wanting to know, I put out another random poll over the weekend, and it was just to get a feel for the very last episode of the week. So I put up the highest grossing, but the highest voted Ghostbusters that we had a few weeks ago up against Halloween 2. And Halloween 2 destroyed Ghostbusters. So I'm still undecided what's the last episode of the month is going to be. There's just so many people want a bunch of movies. And it's hard to choose between Hocus Pocus, Ghostbusters, Nightmare Before Christmas, or a slasher film. I'm just like, what do we do? So we might be asking for some more help out there. But you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/moviereels405, or just search Cine-Men Movie Podcast. And you can find us on the Instagram at Cine-Men Movie Podcast, one word. The Twitter is Cinemen405. You can email us. We've been getting a bunch of emails lately at cinemen921 at gmail.com. And then you can call, leave us a voicemail, leave us a text, 405-590-5711. And then we have a YouTube page as well. You guys can find that YouTube page on the Facebook. Just hit learn more, and you go straight to the YouTube page. You guys have any recent watches? Anything you want to... Maybe we can talk about some of the stuff we might have watched over the week and chat up about it.
No, I don't have many recent watches.
So what'd you check out this week, Zach?
Last night I rewatched Creed 2 because I had the desire to rewatch it again. I like it a little bit more every single time I watch it. And then I've just been on my Breaking Bad binge. I'm about at the beginning of season 4.
Oh, so you haven't seen
I haven't seen El Camino yet. Did you watch it?
Yes, I was going to talk about it a little bit this week.
No spoilers.
No spoilers, so I can do that. What about you, Ed? You just get through Letterkenny?
Pretty much Letterkenny, and then the latest episode from last Wednesday of the Wu-Tang and American Saga. Been watching those shows. So, yeah. Kind of falling asleep a little too early for movies, to be honest.
You guys can follow what most of us watch on the Instagram. So you guys can follow some recent watches. I did check out the original Saw, getting ready for this episode, as I'm sure we all did. I rewatched Toy Story 4.
Mm-hmm.
And
You like it a little bit better?
I like it a little bit better. I still kind of wish one of the last things you didn't see was Forky. But it is what it is. And then I checked out El Camino on Saturday or Friday. And I will say that if you're not a fan of Jesse Pinkman, then I don't know if this is for you.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as like the performances go and the story, it wasn't that big of a...
I've just heard it kind of is like a big send-off for Jesse because he kind of didn't get that in the series finale.
Pretty much. But it's good. I gave it an 8.
Okay.
So I think you'll like it. But that leads to me to talk about Robert Foster, R.I.P. for the week, which is crazy. Literally the day that the film is released, he passes away.
Yeah.
So big shout out to him and his family. Hope you guys are,
Thoughts and prayers.
Yeah. He's also in the Jackie Brown movie, which is a Quentin Tarantino flick. Go check it out. And then I've just been on a Saw binge. Saw 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then I'm in the middle of Midsummer. I'm an hour into it, so I got an hour and 20 minutes left. And right now, it's super weird.
Yeah.
But I like it.
Yeah.
But
It gets weirder.
But I like it. Actually, you've seen it. I'm not too far in, really. I'm at the scene where he gives her the birthday cake.
Okay.
So... But
yeah. Don't worry. It still picks up.
The parents' death scene with the daughter at the beginning.
Yeah.
That's almost like the in Hereditary, where the kid gets her head whacked off.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
it gets even more gruesome.
Does it?
Have you got to the cliff scene?
No.
Okay.
But I'm kind of confused though. Did the sister kill herself, and then the heir just got to the family?
No, she basically took all 3 of them out, including herself.
But it's crazy. It's out there, and I highly, highly recommend it so far. Do you guys have any other honorable mentions? I'm getting ahead of myself. Do you guys have any other recent watches you've been wanting to get to, or anybody excited for anything coming up?
I mean, The Addams Family, I think, looks kind of a cool little flick.
I've heard good reviews about it.
So there's that. Zombieland 2, of course, to watch out for. Double tap, if you will.
That's this weekend.
Yeah, so that should be pretty good. Should get at least a good weekend or a couple weekends out of it. Mm-hmm. So we'll see on that one.
What about you, Zach?
Yeah, I'm excited for Zombieland 2. The Lighthouse. It comes out either this week or next week.
I think that's this week.
The A24 picture. The Warren is actually having a early advanced screening of Knives Out on the 25th and the 26th, which is Rian Johnson's new movie. It has Daniel Craig, Chris Evans, Christopher Plummer. It's kind of like a Clue, basically, type film.
Are you excited about that?
I think it looks good. What do you think about it?
I think it looks good, but I mean...
I think this is kind of Rian Johnson's, to get, The Last Jedi off his hands.
His rebound.
Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, and at the beginning of November 1st is Terminator Dark Fate, so...
I am excited about Terminator. I think we might have to throw Judgment Day in next month. I'm not sure. If you're going to talk one of the best sci-fi movies of all time, you got to throw Judgment Day in there.
Absolutely.
So I think we're just going to go ahead and get to our top 5. All right, guys. This week's top 5 is underway. Zach, do you have any honorable mentions?
Yeah, I actually have 5 actually. And we're doing our top 5 favorite horror deaths. I'm just gonna round these off real quick. The Deep Blue Sea, Samuel L. Jackson gets it, and by the way, these are all spoilers for all these movies, basically. Samuel L. Jackson for Deep Blue Sea. Kane's death from Alien, the first time you see the chest burster.
Yep.
Halloween, the opening sequence with Judith Myers. It from 2017, Georgie's death, and then probably my official honorable mention is Ghost Ship, the metal wire at the beginning where they basically decapitate everybody, all the guests.
Mine is going to be, I just have the one honorable mention, and it's going to be the little girl from It Chapter 2, under the bleachers.
Yeah.
I think that was one of my favorite scenes of the movie, so that's my one honorable mention. Ed, what about you?
No honorable mentions at the moment.
Okay, we'll start with your number 5. Go ahead.
Number 5, I know I'm gonna hate myself for this, but Final Destination, if I'm not mistaken, 3. I forget his name, and I know it because he was in I think he was in the Amanda Bynes show or something like that, and the one who gets sucked down to the bottom of the pool,
yeah,
and his he doesn't have a very good time with a vacuum. Ceiling.
I think that's Final Destination 4.
4?
4,
I was about to say, I know it's one of the later ones, like 3, 4, or 5, but yeah.
That's that'd be a horrible death.
Yeah, I just was like, Then that whole little the little water bulb or whatever it is fills up with blood. Just well, bye.
Zach, what do you got at number 5?
Number 5, we actually just got done talking about it here a second ago. Hereditary, the daughter's death. Never ever want to put your head out the window.
Man, that scene in general is probably one of my favorite scenes in horror film history. We actually got some fun emails about that movie, so...
and check out the episode. We did a whole episode on Hereditary.
Yeah, one of my favorite episodes. Number 5 for me, I'm going to start off hot is the shower scene from Psycho. Marion Crane's death. Iconic horror scene. She got loads of chocolate syrup all over her feet. So that's what my number 5 is. Ed, what about you? What's your number 4?
Number 4, I love this movie, Cabin in the Woods. And this is kind of an odd, this isn't just one, this is a lot of deaths, but it's the scene where the monsters get to come out and play, because all of them are locked up in like a freaking odd vending machine type deal, and you kind of get to put a, for sake of a better word, quarter in and see what your death or what your possibility of death is going to be. And when
the elevator doors open,
it kind of reminded me of the Shining scene when the blood comes out. So yeah, that's my number 4.
Zach, what do you got at number 4?
That is my number 4 as well. The elevator scene from Cabin in the Woods. It's just like you hear the ding and the soldier's like, oh no. Everything comes on at once.
I think the third wave is a scream just
yeah.
Well,
I was just like, I guess that's not a place you want to work then.
Number 4 for me is going to be from Scream, and it's the first kill in the film. Drew Barrymore's death. Her character Casey Becker gets it good. To me it's one of my favorite kills of the movie, and it's pretty like hardcore because not only does she get dragged through her own front yard, but her parents find her hanging in their family tree.
yeah.
It gives the whole opening send-off for the movie, and it tells you what you're about to get into. So that's my number 4. Ed, what do you got at number 3?
You've already actually mentioned it. I'm going to go with Marion Crane for number 3. The main reason why is just because I feel that's such an iconic scene, no matter what liquid they used, whether fake blood, chocolate syrup, or whatever it was. It just, you see that, what movie it was from. You more than likely know the author or the director. So yeah, that one just sticks out. Plus, it was our first episode, so yeah.
Zach, what do you got at number 3?
Number 3 is another Final Destination film, Ed, for just my opinion. Number 3 is Final Destination 2, the car crash sequence. Talk about, we use cars in everyday living, but when you are able to compose an entire shot of just like brutal, graphic ways to die in a car, it's you don't want to go on the highway afterwards.
Plus, you do kind of look at logging trucks quite a bit different.
Yes.
Yeah. So really stay back 150 yards.
Yeah.
Number 3 for me is going to be the reverse bear trap from Saw: The Final Chapter from 2010. I think it was just one of those random kill scenes in the movie, but yeah, it's literally a reverse bear trap clapped into your mouth, and it goes off and just rips your face halfway apart.
Yep.
Not only do I think that was innovative, but the scene was pretty nice too. I'd go check it out. Saw, The Final Chapter is my number 3. Ed, what do you got number 2?
To top that off, it took 5 movies to actually show that in action, because you see it in the first movie, but you just see it on someone. You don't see it actually
I think
hit.
The Final Chapter is like 6 or 7.
So yeah, it's 5-6 movies.
Yeah.
Anyways,
what's your number 2?
Number 2, I will have to say, since I like this actor quite a bit, and this is his debut film, Nightmare on Elm Street, Johnny Depp's death when he goes into the bed and all you see is blood burst from the bed. That one, kind of just like the Marion Crane death, you know exactly where or who and all that.
Talking about the one where he gets grabbed into the bed?
Yep. That is just so... you know which movie you're watching.
Hope so.
Simple.
I hope so. Zach?
My number 2 is it's going to be the opening of a film that came out last year, A Quiet Place. The death of the little boy was just like when the monster gets him and it just kind of fades to black. You're so like, if you're in a theater and it's loud and that happens, you're just like, oh, so this is what we're in for the next hour and a half. I think it's just really well shot, and really, it kind of gives it away in the trailer, but not really, just because just like when it happens, you're just kind of in shock.
Yeah.
So, yeah, number 2, A Quiet Place.
Number 2 for me is going to be Pam's death in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original one where she gets hung up at the meat cleaver. She gets her back gets, or not the meat cleaver, but the hooks. He puts her up on the hook, and that actress is Terry McMinn, and yeah. So that's a pretty good way to die. Just get hung up on hooks and laid there to bleed to death and get chopped up. So that's
no joke.
That's like one of the best scenes in that movie. And that movie being so good is just very, 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 very gruesome. Like we said in the original episode that we did, it feels like you're watching something you're not supposed to. So Ed, number 1 for you.
Number 1 is basically going back to not even a couple weeks ago, but I'm going back to Silence of the Lambs. The scene where Hannibal Lecter actually tricks 2 cops into his cage and pretty much hangs one up. Yeah, that one was just man. I couldn't imagine doing something like that personally. That's just oof. But that one kind of sticks with me. Don't get me wrong. When you see that, it's kind of almost like, was he trying to call the Batman and just hated that guy that much? I don't know. DC plug.
That's number 2. Let's see if we can
No,
do
that
a
was
third
my
one.
number 1.
Number 1 for me is both of you guys had it in your top 5. I think it's just number 1 just because it's pretty much the original horror death, and that's the shower sequence from Psycho. Marion Crane, directed by Alfred Hitchcock, and there's a great documentary. You can see it on Hulu called 7852, and it's an hour and a half documentary just about the making of the shower sequence.
Ah, there you go.
And the title is referring to 78 setups, how they placed the camera, and the 52 cuts it took to actually where you couldn't get no nudity or anything like that.
Right.
So, but make it look like the knife was going into her. So, incredible documentary. I would highly recommend it.
My number 1, looking back at it now, is probably the greatest ending to any kind of horror film that you could ever have, or horror franchise. until they mess it up and put out another movie. Mine is going to be where Jamie Lee Curtis cuts off Michael Myers' head at the end of Halloween H2O. I've ranted about this all last year. It's the perfect way to end the Halloween franchise. She cuts off his head. He's done. You can see her breathing. She knows it's over. I mean, she didn't even say one single word. The facial expressions told it all. And then they came out with this shitty movie called Halloween Resurrection, and it was perfect way to end the movie. But to me, that symbol right there of cutting off his head and just showing everybody that that's the end, 20 years exactly after the original movie, perfect ending. So that is my number one. So, guys, I think we're gonna talk a little Saw, maybe a lot of Saw. This was one that was highly recommended a few episodes ago, and then it got put up on a poll, and it won. And then, we had some comments last year about why we didn't get to do it last year, but now it's in the books. It's getting its own episode. So we were talking all things Saw from 20. I don't know why I want to say 20. From 2004, IMDb gave it a 7.6. And Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 49%. So it's rotten on Tomatoes. But you guys can check it out on Hulu. I think so.
Yeah, it's still up there. That's how I watched it. Yeah, it's on Hulu.
It's also on YouTube and Amazon Prime. You can rent for $3.99, as well as Google Play and Vudu. And then with it being that time of year, it's on the Sci-Fi Channel all week. So it's one of those movies that started maybe not started, but
it kind of reinvented the horror again after Scream did the slasher.
Torture porn was kind of always a thing back in the day as far as what kind of horror movies you're into, but this one really put them on the map as far as like mainstream goes. And I mean, it had a budget of only $1.2 million, and it grossed a little over $103 million at the box office. So it had a Sundance release of January 19th, 2004, and then it was released to the public October 29th, perfect date, 2004. Starring Carrie Lewis, Danny Glover, Monica Potter, Tobin Bell, and directed by James Wan. Which now, Zach, where's James Wan sound so familiar right now?
I think it's Aquaman, DC plug.
Yep.
So yes, there you go.
Oh, so we're gonna go ahead and go around the table. I'm acting like I haven't done this before. Zach, when the first time you saw, what did you think? And then what did you think the second time around, revisiting it for this episode?
So, the first time I saw, I think was when Blockbuster was still in business, when they did like the mail-in stuff where you can get the movies through the mail. I watched all this, up to a certain point, all the Saw films through that, and the first one I actually really enjoyed the first time around. I thought it was really well done. I think it kind of set up this whole entire quote-unquote universe for these films, or franchise, I guess is a better word. But on this rewatch, I didn't like it.
You didn't like it at all?
No.
We'll get there. Ed, what about you? First time you watched this, do you remember? And what is it like revisiting it for this episode?
Yeah, first time I watched it wasn't that long after it was out of theaters. I don't remember exactly, but it was within that year. I thought it was pretty cool. I thought it was different, new, really simple. I mean, extremely simple. Pretty much that's, I just thought it was great. Now, I mean, I still think it's great. I honestly, out of the entire Saw series, prefer this one the most. I've learned about it quite a bit more since then. But, yeah, I've still got to say, it doesn't really lose much at all.
My first time is actually the same year it probably was released on DVD. It was 2004. I used to go to this rental video. I did Blockbuster just for a little bit, but we always used to go to this place in Oklahoma City, and I'll go ahead and plug it. It's not in business anymore, but it's called One Stop Video. And the owner, I'll plug him too, Ken, used to I would go in there and I could spend hours in there. There's probably actually a little bio of me. This is probably where my actual like love for movies started, because my dad would sit in the car outside and I would bring up all kinds of movies and he'd be like, "Are you sure your dad let you watch this?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So he would wave to my dad. My dad, not knowing what I'm getting, my dad would wave back to him, signaling the okay for me to get what I wanted.
You got away with a lot of stuff, probably.
So I watched Saw, and I would get like the 80s horror films, Jason, Halloween, all those good things. And actually, like, I was glued. And then, as years go on, I would like rent the entire. I think at the time there was like probably 3 or 4 of them, so I'd rent all 4 of those, and I got glued on Saw. And then rewatching it this second time around, I liked it. I still like it a lot. There's just some small nitpicks, but other than that, like, this movie really is a game changer, no pun intended, for the way horror movies were about to be in that 2004 to probably the rest of that decade, to probably 2009. Nowadays, it's all the Conjuring universe.
Right.
And we have some emails about that I'll get into later.
Well, I think... Sorry to...
No, go ahead.
It was, in the 90s, Scream kind of reinvented the slasher genre, and that went up to where Saw was in about 2004, and from 2004 to 2010 was probably the torture porn, and we had a whole bunch of, like, horror remakes. Hostel, Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
And then when Halloween came out, it was like nothing but torture porn. It was a whole torture porn Halloween. Yeah.
And then from 2009 to probably about maybe a few years ago, well, we're still kind of in it with The Conjuring, but the supernatural horror. And now I think we're kind of going back to the psychological aspect with Us and Get Out. And granted, those are only 2 films, but I mean, like, it's kind of... I think we've kind of gone back to smart horror, if that makes sense.
I hope so, but I still think today's mainstream is jump scares.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely jump scares. But I mean, like, if you can do something like... like I said, Get Out or Don't Breathe or Us or something like that. You can do it in a very smart, intelligent way. I mean, in my book, you're winning. So
Ed, what about you? You got some looking back at the way this kind of regenerated some horror movies. After this or around this time, you would have movies like Midnight Meat Train would get released. Final Destination was around this time. Some of those kind of movies. What do you think this movie did for a horror generation? Because, I mean, we were like 14, 15 years old when this movie had first came out. So, I don't think even movie theaters wouldn't really let us in the movie theater back in the day for something like this.
No, I mean, I think this was a lesson that not many people paid attention to, and the ones who did benefited heavily off of it.
Explain.
Simplicity. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you look at most beginnings of horror films that are hardcore sellers, and I mean, don't get me wrong, like just either A, cult fan fictions, or just B, killed the box office, basically. It's always a simple thing. I mean, Blair Witch Project, Paranormal Activity 1, Saw, hell, even, Halloween. Yeah, I know that Halloween wasn't a hit until I think a few days or a week or so after, and then word of mouth got around and it was like, oh shit, cool.
Yeah.
But a lot of horror films try way too hard, and to raise the bar and make it so innovative and all.
I also think they're worried about whose toes they might step on. What's too graphic for the screen? Is rated R. Nowadays you have to look at things that are rated R, NC-17, and then there's hard R movies like. A lot of people nowadays are worried about budgets. Like, is it going to make that much money if it's a rated R film compared to a horror PG-13 movie? So it really depends, I think, on the studio. That's why I think some of the Conjuring movies aren't maybe up to par, and they're not really well
received.
No, they're never well received, but they're also like you don't get that many trailers for them or public. It's not
promotion.
Yeah, there's not much promotion. Just like walking around Walmart today, I didn't know Annabelle Homecoming came out.
Yeah, that Annabelle Comes Home came out, late June, and it's already out on Blu-ray. So I mean, I feel like the Conjuring universe is like, it's not dead because we are getting Conjuring 3 next year, but it's lost its footing, or I think it's lost its way a little bit because the last couple films in that universe haven't been that good.
Let's talk about director James Wan, since you mentioned
The Conjuring.
Conjuring next year. He doesn't have that very many direct movies that he directed, but there is the Saw short film, Saw 2004, Death Sentence from 2007, Dead Silence, Insidious from 2010, The Conjuring from 2013, Insidious 2, Furious 7, Conjuring 2, Aquaman, Insidious, and then Insidious The Dark Realm, which I guess is next year.
I didn't even know they were coming out with another Insidious.
Yeah, and then Aquaman 2 in 2022.
Yeah. I had a friend that was like terrified of Dead Silence, about the old woman and the dolls.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But I mean, his filmography, it is mostly horror because that's what he's known for. But you get like little random tidbits like Furious 7, Death Sentence, and Aquaman.
Do you think he is one of those directors where I think if he would have continued to maybe do a couple more Saw movies, like John Carpenter did, or maybe Wes Craven, do you think, can you put him up there with some of those directors? Do you think he changed horror the way he did with Saw, or do you think he kind of used it to make give his breakout performance, and then he never touched it again?
Do you guys think that if he had at least did the first 3, you think this franchise would have gone differently, or do you think it would have ended with the 3?
I think it would have gone a little differently, as in ended with 3. Probably not, just because, especially if they made more than they did. I mean, obviously, as much as they did make, and as much as they made per movie, they seen a lot of profit with it, so they're not going to go ahead and just shut it down.
Right.
But because I mean, with 2, basically, they were greenlit by pretty much the 3rd or 4th day after the movie came out. They were greenlit already for a sequel, and then the sequel actually happens to be someone else's writing who was inspired by the movie.
Mm-hmm.
No like talk with James Wan. They basically just like tweaked some of his stuff, and that's how 2 came to be. And I mean, I think it would have gone a little different. Maybe it would be kind of more like Purge-like, to where you get totally different, not really a true story except for Jigsaw, and that's it. To where Purge is just, the Purge is the same thing, and that's all it is. But I mean, of course, with that you have to have Jigsaw because he's the main
the puppet
attraction, if you will.
Yeah.
Billy. I think it would have been really good if he directed the first 3. To me, the first 3 are my favorite.
Yeah.
I don't completely shit on the other sequels, but to me, the first 3 are really my favorite. And I think it's really well written horror. So I think he would have. I think he would have done good for 2 and 3. But let's get into a little bit of the movie. Obviously, it opens up with your 2 characters, Carrie Lewis and what's the other guy's name? Carrie Lewis and Adam, Dr. Lawrence and Adam open up in the, what would you call that? A bathroom, maybe? Like
I guess.
An understorage bathroom. I think the whole concept is original. I enjoy it. My favorite character in the movie is Danny Glover as the detective. I enjoy that work from Danny Glover. Never would have thought to see him in a movie like this, with him being in like Lethal Weapons and some comedies. Never would have thought to see him in a movie like this. But Zach, I want to pick your brain a little bit. Why did you kind of have an issue with the movie?
I have, and you can save the emails. I know what I'm getting into when I see a Saw movie. And really, this is probably the only one, in my opinion, this is the only one that kind of has like a story to it. The other ones pretty much turn into like a 1,000 Ways to Die episode.
That's true, but I will say that the stories continue, but it's almost in threes.
Segment. Yeah.
1, 2, and 3 go together. 4, 5, and 6 go together.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last 2 are like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's...
and Jigsaw's more of a prequel, if anything else.
Yeah.
You know...
I will say that this movie, any of these movies aren't for everybody, but it's really important that if you write something like this in 2003 and it releases in 2004, you really have to make sure that it ages well. Because, I mean, we're talking... How many years ago?
And I think that's part of the problem with me. I just think it ages well.
Yeah.
I think...
When you first watch it, was that your first time and you're like, oh, that, that's like a game changer.
Yeah.
So I can see that. Ed, what about you? Like, looking back at it for your second time around, what do you think?
I mean, don't get me wrong, it doesn't change too much. You notice a few more different things, like you will with almost anything, because now everybody on the internet and YouTube and all that look for Easter eggs or different, try and spot different things. So, I mean, but then again, sometimes it weaves its own web, and you don't get to see that web until 3/4 or most of the way throughout the movie. Mm-hmm. So you've got that, but all in all, I'll agree with Zach. I do love the first one a lot more. The second and the third I don't mind at all, but parts of the third just kind of lose me, and after that I just kind of lost a lot of interest in it.
Yeah.
But I mean, as far as the first one goes, I just really love the simplicity of it. I'm glad they got to get, a person like Tobin Bell, a person like Donald Glover, who, vets, but still were willing to accept the roles. So, I mean, when you get, at least a couple of actors who really, 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 truly know what they're doing, and then you get one that knows what he's doing as well as will kind of lead the franchise. So, as long as you get a couple pieces to the puzzle, then I think you have a chance at a great thing. So,
What about compared to last week's episode with us going through and talking about Seven? Would you think this is more of a psychological thriller too, or would this fall under a different kind of horror for you? We'll start with Zach.
This falls under a different type of horror. Seven, I can get... Obviously, you can point out where Seven was the inspiration for the film, but, I mean, this is... Seven is, a very psychological thriller. This is more of like a thriller horror film, if that makes sense. What about you, Ed?
I would actually compare to want to argue, because I mean, I feel like it's more of a psychological thriller, because you don't really truly understand what's going on at first. You're freaking chained, your ankle is chained to a freaking rusty 12-inch pipe, basically. So you wake up pretty much confused as hell where you are. And I mean, don't get me wrong, think of Adam. He wakes up in a freaking bathtub full of water. Mm-hmm. That could have been anything. That could have been acid. You never know that. But then, you go through all these all these struggles and all that, and you find out you kind of know who this guy is, and then looking at Dr. Gordon, he basically knows most of the crud you've done, as a person, kind of can look up, for that matter, on medical professions. So, and
look, I can admit that the film is smart. One of the things I will credit the Saw films is that it really does build a mystery, and then it kind of unravels, and then by the I have in my notes that the last 5 to 10 minutes of the film, it finally reveals the whole picture of what's going on.
Do you think this movie is like, oh hey, obviously I'll say it's well written, and I do like some of the traps and the games in the movie, but I want to say I feel like at the end they're just telling you can play on your phone through the whole movie. We're going to tell you, how we got here anyway. Yeah. That's the one thing I will say I don't like about the Saw movies, because if you don't get something, they're going to tell you at the end anyway. So it's almost like this is a horror movie for people who don't want to pay attention.
Pretty much like it's like math class, but at the end of the class, the teacher gives you the answers anyways.
Yeah, that's a good analogy for it.
I do want to know, like, who do you think sat around and made these some of these traps up? Like, what kind of sick mind do you think? Like, could you imagine that war room just sitting there and just coming up with ways to kill people?
Well, I do know that the creation of Tobin Bell's character came from not James Wan, but the writer, and I do forget his name. I hate that. Basically, he had frequent migraines.
Lee Wannell.
Yes.
Wannell.
Yeah. Lee had frequent migraines, and he went into the doctor's office, and while he's sitting in the doctor's office, he literally is thinking to himself, like, okay, what would happen if I had a tumor? What would I do? Or what would, somebody that had, 6 months to live, a year to live, or whatever, do, knowing their time is ticking away slowly but surely? I mean, it all is for all of us, but I mean, you don't know your expiration date, if you will. But if you knew your expiration date, what would you do? Say whatever have you. So he gone through the waiting room and he's thinking about different things that he'd go with, and he's kind of like, okay, I could make this into a plot, and he goes over some things, and they eventually I know James Wan came up with Billy the Puppet. He made him from toilet paper rolls and ping pong balls for eyes, paper mache, and all kinds of different stuff. So obviously he was crafty and all that. And I think the reverse bear trap was just something they kind of, because I know that was in the original little 10-minute that they had to shoot to say, hey, this is kind of our pitch. This is what we're wanting to go with. We just need the money to make it big or make it bigger, and this is what we feel like could make a huge profit. And I mean, at the end of the day, the investors were probably blown away by what they actually did come up with. Isn't
it funny how the movie itself isn't really... it's a game for the doctor and the other guy that's in the room with him.
Yeah.
But the real game is for the guy who abducts the family.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What kind of horror do you think? I mean, obviously this movie is one of those that just goes from 0 to 60 like that. But if you had to pick, maybe would Jigsaw be up there with horror icons? If you had to pick a horror name.
I don't know about that. 'Cause I mean, honestly, a lot of people, you can show them a picture of Tobin Bell, and they'll just kind of okay, I don't know.
I'm not talking about the actor himself. I'm talking about the character, the doll, Jigsaw.
Right. Well, I mean, that's what I was about to say. I mean, if you're comparing it to Michael Myers or even Pennywise for that matter, I don't think I would personally. But I mean, that is my own personal thing. I wouldn't, just because I don't think it's at that level. And it may down the line in 10, 20 years, but right now I don't think so. But I mean, if you're comparing it to just because basically the doll is a figurehead. It's not like Chucky. I mean, Chucky, now is AI, but back in the day was an actual possession. So I mean, it was quite a bit different to where now it's just, I mean, you could do the same. You could compare it to Jeff Dunham then, you know what I mean? So I mean, that's the only thing, because I mean, yeah, most people don't even know that his name is Billy.
Right.
Billy the puppet. So to where Chucky or Walter from Jeff Dunham. I mean, there's several different things of that nature, but yeah, I wouldn't compare it like that.
Well, I mean, let's kind of read the synopsis, if you will. But this is one of those movies where it's very simple. If you haven't seen it, it's one of the greatest, give or take, one of the greatest openings of horror film history. But two strangers who awake in a room with no collection of how they got there soon discover that they're pawns in a deadly game operation prepped by a notorious serial killer. So therefore, I really think that this film is, as a whole, game-changing. But as a series, it's probably just like any other horror series. Like, it gets lost with the sequels.
Yeah.
So
it goes on way too long.
No different than some of the Fridays or some of the Halloween movies. Even some of the Nightmare on Elm Streets are unwatchable. But to me, in order to put this up there with the rest of them, I think the longevity helps, even though how over the top some of the sequels may be. If you're talking Halloween, Nightmare, I think you have to put this up there with some of the other franchises. Give or take the final thoughts. You have like a favorite scene of this movie? Ed, we'll start with you.
Favorite scenes, I would have to say, is the when they realize who each other is and that they kind of know each other, or it's more the fact that the Adam is a photographer, and he's been basically freelance to I'm gonna call it stalk Dr. Gordon, and then for Dr. Gordon to find out that he knows who or for you, I guess this would be more towards the viewer, that you know that Dr. Gordon knows who Zeke, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, who Zeke is. So I mean, it's kind of like you get the realization, but the fact of the matter is once he finds out who Adam is, and Adam, reveals more of himself, then I think that's a really cool scene, just because you get, you see Dr. Gordon losing his mind to a big point. And I mean, yeah, you see him in later in the in one of the sequels, I think in 4 or 5 or something like that. But it builds on the story. But yeah, you see him kind of go into a mode, cut his own foot off eventually, and looks back and tells him, "I'm going for help."
Which, I mean, one of the writers of the movie is Adam, so that's another fun thing about the movie, is like, kind of working with my boss.
Yeah. So I mean, honestly, this film was basically done in 18 days, I want to say. So they actually filmed it chronologically. Like, what order you see it in is how it was. So I mean,
which a lot of movies doesn't do anymore, and even then, so.
And I mean, honestly, that editing team was probably like, thank God.
What about you? Do you have any like favorite scenes or anything you want to mention about the film?
I think the quote unquote stereotypes of Saw, the Saw music at the end, the twist of everything coming together. The Jigsaw skin scene where it's revealed like it's just like a puzzle piece torn out of the skin. I think that's kind of a cool thing that they eventually use later on to the films. Adam using his camera when the room is dark and you hear like the ching. It's kind of like a tribute to Texas Chainsaw. Yeah.
Not to mention they mentioned one of the houses being the last house on the left.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll correct myself from earlier. It's not Zeke. The janitor / kidnapper is Zep. Z-E-P.
That's right.
So, yeah, sorry, I just wanted to correct that just real quick.
My favorite scene is probably going to be the scene where the doctor starts gnawing off his leg with the saw, where he's like, I've had it, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to save what I can.
But when he gets to that point, you really don't see like the brutality of it. You see the cutting back and forth, but there's no blood spurting or anything. I
will say this is the least gruesome film out of all of them.
Yeah.
Which I don't mind. But man, this is one of those movies though and franchises, if you will, at least in the first 3 or 4, that really you want to thank practical effects.
Yeah.
And all these movies that we've been doing, and even next week with Candyman, this is one of those movies that the practical effects are appreciative, and it's just it's good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Because I mean, when Tobin Bell stands up from being basically drugging, or his character drugging himself on the floor for what seems like 12 hours or so, he peels off that bald cap wound, or a gunshot wound thing that he's got on the right side of his head, and I mean, you actually had to probably teach him where to pull or where to place his fingers to scrape it off and all that good stuff. But I mean, the look on Adam's face just told 3 or 4 different stories, because he's like, "Are you serious? Are you kidding? What? You're alive?" So.
One more thing. All right, guys. So before we get into one of the later segments of the time, if you had to rate this film, I'll start off with you, Ed. What would you give this film overall?
Pretty much 8, strong 8. I like the film. I think it was innovative. I think it is. I mean, it may not hold itself a lot just because of the different the shots, but I mean, don't get me wrong, it does. It almost reminds you of a slightly different and more adult Scooby-Doo.
Very.
Please tell me you did not just compare Saw to Scooby-Doo.
Okay, but the thing is, it's still a technical murder mystery. They don't know who the hell this guy is. They don't know how to get him. They're trying to pull the mask off of the guy. So, I mean,
Well, to be fair, there is a deleted scene with the Scooby Gang, yes.
Well, hey, I mean, Fred, Daphne, Velma, and all them had to get in somehow. And then the shotgun went off. Poor guys. Damn it.
And no, I'm not gonna go there. All right. What about you, Johnny?
I'd have to give it an 8 as well. I don't think it gets any credit for what kind of horror film it is and for the way it changed the game. And then the way everything just ends up at the end, leading into number 2, I give it an 8. It's one of those movies that, looking back at it, it changes everything. I don't think you get some of the movies you do between 2005 and 2010 without it. I think it's very underrated these some odd years later, so I'll give it an 8. Zach, what about you?
So yeah, I'm gonna be the bad guy in this episode, which is fine.
4.
It's subjective. 5.
Whoa.
5 out of 10. I can appreciate for what it is. But there was just something in this rewatch that I just didn't like.
It just didn't age well with you.
Yeah.
Which in some of these movies, I mean, like I said, no harm, no foul.
Well, something else I do want to. If anything, I had basically crapped on the movie the whole time. I do want to compliment the movie posters. I think all of them kind of have like a cool, haunting visual. The first one's the legs. The second one's the 2 fingers. The third one's the teeth hanging from piano wire. And the fourth one is Jigsaw's head on the autopsy scale.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, I enjoy the posters of the films. I think they're really well done, and they kind of represent like kind of what's gonna happen.
Yeah, I've been in a rewatch of all of them this week, and I mean, the only one that was rough for me to get through so far was 5, but I wasn't really paying attention to it. So now I'm on to 6, 7, and 8. But I really think they're just.
Do you think in like 10 years this is gonna get remade?
I actually know that it's going to get remade, I think, next year.
Is it next year? Are we getting another one, or is it like a reboot?
I think it's a reboot. And I think it's like some comedians do it. I think Chris Rock is like...
I think I have heard this, yeah.
He's like producing it, or he's got like a movie studio behind him that he's producing it. So the original Saw is getting a reboot. Which, I mean, that's fine. I think it's too soon, but...
Well, I mean, it's been 15 years. I mean, it's
15 years is the remake time.
I thought it was 7.
I think, well, now it's kind of gone up up to 15 because Spider-Man had been reinvented like so many times now.
Yep.
So I think it's fair that we put Saw behind us. 2 8s and a 5, which I think you voted this is higher than Batman Returns. Which
yeah, I do like this.
He shit on Batman Returns, guys, and if you guys want to go back and check out that episode,
I gave this movie more compliments than Batman Returns.
That's true. Zach was a part of the Batman Returns episode. He was just there, not speaking at all. No.
Bring on the crappy emails.
Speaking of emails, we're gonna go ahead and dub this the mailbag segment, and we started last week, so I went ahead and picked out a few this week. First one, we'll start off with Sarah97. This question is about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. What do you guys think that the ending truly means? Where it's technically it's a happy ending. Leo gets the praise. He does all the he didn't do all the work, but he gets the praise. Brad Pitt did all the work. Zach, we'll start with you.
I think the ending kind of represents just kind of him basically being accepted into Hollywood. And, I think if it had gone on maybe 2 or 3 more minutes, I think we would have seen, like, his resurgence as an actor. Granted, it's been a while since I've seen the movie, but that was kind of my takeaway from it.
Ed, what did the ending mean to you?
Pretty much the life of a stuntman is kind of what you just said, because the stuntman almost never gets praised. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, but you never know his stuntman's name. So I feel like it is.
He could be like Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is his own stuntman.
Hey, but okay, so it's kind of going back to that episode, kind of like what you said. This is a once upon a time in Hollywood. It's a happy ending. It's not. It's fantasy, basically.
Taking my words out of my own mouth already.
Basically. So yeah, it might be 85% truth, but that's 15% lie. So, or at least fantasy booking, as you like to say.
Well, that goes. Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. I was gonna say you can hear it in the episode. Those are my exact words. It's in the title, Once Upon a Time. But there's also some talk out there that Quentin Tarantino was writing that in there as like Leo's the underclass, hardworking cinema movie, and trying to fight that big Disney Marvel film.
Right.
That's what some people get out of it. Sam G69 wants to know go-to Halloween candy. Zach, we'll start with you.
M&M's.
Dang, that was quick.
Yeah.
I'm on the new kid on the block. M&M's was the good candy. It's now Reese's.
Reese's Pieces are like the little.
No, Reese's peanut butter cups, man.
Cup.
Peanut butter cup. How about you, Johnny?
Johnny's looking at you like, how dare you?
I'm gonna go with I don't know. I'm gonna go with Twizzlers. I like Twizzlers.
Dang. Okay.
This is Anonymous wants to know. Just listen to your Hereditary episode. Just want to ask thoughts on why there isn't more horror films this good, and why do you think this got mixed reviews? Zach, this is pretty much just us. Ed wasn't a part of that episode.
Yep.
Spoiler heavy, Ed, just in case.
Yeah, it's all good.
What do you think? I want to know more about this too. Like, as far as this episode goes or that movie, like I said, I'm in the middle of Midsummer, and you talked about it earlier as far as like smart horror goes.
Mm-hmm.
Why is there stuff not like this? Like stuff like The Witch. When there is smart horror out there like this, it just gets mixed reviews, and even though it makes the money, a lot of people just kind of shit on it.
It's a hard sell because at this point in the horror genre, you have to go so far out there in order to create not only a reasonable, like an interesting story, but just good characters and a really twisty, weaving storyline. I think Hereditary is definitely. I know you haven't got to the really weird stuff in Midsummer, which I'm not going to spoil. I saw this with a friend of mine, and we were just like, oh, wow, this is like, all right. But Hereditary, I think, because, at the end of the day, it's basically an exorcism film, almost, to a certain extent. But it's just done in such a really well done fashion that, most people, they're either going to get bored. It's an artsy horror film almost.
Yeah. Something you have to think about.
Mm-hmm. And people just want, blood and gore and.
Ed, I know you weren't there for the episode, but I'm going to ask you: Do you like your horror film? Do you like it to where you have to think about it, or do you want it to be something like an It or a Halloween where it gives you nothing but like jump scares?
Honestly, I like an in between, because It and Halloween I love. I truly do love both. However, I do think that sometimes it is given too much, and I do think the mind needs a little challenge or a little bit of, hey, watch this, and deception, gotcha, kind of deal.
So, next email is from J Johnson 87. First time emailing, long time listener. Wanted to say thank you. Listen to you guys every Tuesday morning on the way to work. Favorite director off the top of your head, go.
Steven Spielberg.
Currently, I'm going with John Krasinski. I know really new and hasn't done really much, but so far I like his work a lot. So
I'll go Quentin Tarantino.
there you go.
Okay.
Stephen D. Levin recently listened to the YouTube channel and loved the Joker episode. Thoughts on if the ending is it being true at the end, where it's not really him being the Joker?
Yeah, there's been a lot of. I think you were the one that was talking about the fan theory about what if it's all in his head.
Yeah.
He's been in the mental institution this whole time. I'm starting to really believe that. The more I think about it.
God, I hope not.
But I don't think it is, because, like we talked about, if a certain character had been shown in the background and it was kind of like a confirmation, I think that would have been more acceptable. But like you said, I don't think it is in his head. I think that it is reality.
I really hope not.
Would that the letter grade would just drop 10 degrees?
Kind of, because then the movie would just be there, and it would, it's just there for everybody to appreciate. But for sure, in the back of your mind that there's never ever going to be another kind of film about that. But David Down Under 66 wants to know, off the top of your head, favorite Criterion film.
It's not gonna be what you think it is.
Ed's is Antichrist.
First off, I haven't answered.
Probably the original Godzilla, because I think that was my first Criterion.
To be fully honest, I don't know a lot about the Criterion library. I've never really delved into it that deeply at all, truthfully. I think y'all have brought up that Silence of the Lambs is in that, though. So that's what I'm going to have to go with.
If I had to go with like special features and add in everything, it would probably be Night of the Living Dead.
Oh, yeah.
Nikki 1986 wants to know, all-time favorite episode is The Departed. Would you guys ever dedicate an entire show to Leonardo DiCaprio?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I would love to do that. I think he's up there way easily.
Yeah. Wasn't that my vote when we did the poll?
Yeah.
I picked Leo.
No, I think you put in Tom Hanks. I think you were a Tom Hanks guy.
No, I think I picked Leo. Did you pick Tom Hanks?
No, Johnny Depp.
Johnny Depp.
Who I put in there.
And I put in
Adam Sandler.
No.
Wait, hold on.
I think you did Johnny Depp.
Johnny Depp.
And I did Leo.
For sure.
I might have done Tom Hanks then.
Oh.
Because who was the fourth one again?
I was
Adam
like
Sandler.
Adam Sandler.
That's who won.
He's the one who won.
Oh yeah, you were jokingly putting that in there because you were like, he's gonna get voted out first and blah blah blah, and all ended up kicking everybody out. So,
which, I mean, there is future talks on maybe doing a Tom Hanks episode. So maybe once a month or every other month we can put an actor in there and talk about an actor. Jasmine 90 wants to know, I'd love to hear you guys talk more movies. Any way you can have more shows throughout the week. Really want to listen to you guys talk about films based on true events.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Hey, appreciate the listen. Mainly the reason we only do one show is because that's kind of when all of our timelines line up perfectly.
For now.
So, yeah, exactly.
I do have something up my sleeve. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, so I mean, just keep on watch. Keep listening. So we appreciate that so much.
I do think films that are like based off of true events, there's kind of like a real feel to it, like something maybe you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
So. I don't know. I mean, honestly, I find them interesting because you can kind of throw a little fantasy booking in there, so a little bit of imagination, as well as, how did the actual... Because don't get me wrong, you're going to find at least 5 different stories out there of how the actual thing happened.
This one's pretty fun. Anonymous would like to say, would you ever do a show about a popular TV episode? Like, dedicate your show just to that one TV episode that was, like, iconic. Like, maybe a Friends episode about the couch, or the episode with, one that can pop off my mind, Seinfeld, where Kramer looks at you and he is the actual turkey that you're about to eat on Thanksgiving. Or like a Breaking Bad episode, maybe the season finale.
Or, I know you were, and I know you've got the entire series, but
Big Bang Theory.
Big Bang Theory. Thank you.
Yeah, there's a lot in the Big Bang Theory.
So I mean, there's a ton out there.
That'd be pretty fun though. Dedicate an entire episode to maybe like one 30-minute episode.
Yeah.
And yeah, so would you guys have one off the top of your head? Like maybe just a series, Sopranos ending, or?
I mean, I kind of like The Office. I mean, honestly, UK or US version for that matter.
I don't know if either of you've seen the show House about the doctor. I think that'd be a cool one to do.
Actually, that was one of your dad's favorite shows for that matter.
Maybe next week. Well, maybe next week we can play around and maybe we can talk some El Camino if you go through Breaking Bad.
I know, just Breaking Bad.
Movies or Life 88 wants to say, can't wait for your award show. Any early picks for Best Picture?
I have not seen Joker yet, so I can't really truly say.
Well, that's my favorite. So he's talking about like out of everything you've seen so far, what would you say maybe your favorite film is?
I don't know. It's kind of hard to say because I mean, obviously the biggest profile one is going to be Endgame, but I mean that doesn't mean it's necessarily the best.
No, but he wants to just know what our favorites are, and if that's your favorite, that's your favorite. Mine would probably be Joker or Once Upon a Time.
I'd probably pick either the Peanut Butter Falcon or probably Endgame. I know we're really getting into the award season here about next month, and so that's probably going to change.
And we only have 10 weeks left of the year, so
yeah. So, but yeah, I'd probably say. I don't know. I liked it quite a bit, but Far From Home, Spider-Man Far From Home. I liked that a lot.
Before you do your next episode, the question about real life events. Next month we have like 3 off the top of my head, like about Harriet Tubman.
Yeah.
Ford versus Ferrari, and then A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. So,
not to mention, have you seen the recent trailer? I think it was on the Joker one that I saw, but it's the trailer directed by Clint Eastwood about the guy who...
I haven't got to see that yet.
No, the trailer's really good. That's based off of true events.
And they're pushing that for Oscar season.
Are they?
Mm-hmm.
We'll go ahead and call this the last email of the day. Anonymous would like to know if you would ever dedicate a month to an actor like you did Quentin Tarantino.
I think that could be accomplishable because, I mean, there's a ton out there.
I'm sure Leo has 4 good movies.
Yeah.
Oh, easy.
Tom Hanks. So, yeah. I think that would be... I honestly wanted to do an entire Nick Cage month.
Oh, Lord.
Because, I mean, we could always donate or, give a whole month to a comedy that they've done, a serious drama, an award winner like Best Actor, Best Picture, and then, kind of a random voted one on the page. Yeah. We could do something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So that was a pretty good idea. I want to say thank you everybody for all the emails. I think it was like 10 or 15 that we went through, but there was plenty more to go through.
You want to do a bonus one, or is that you want to call it quits?
Well, I think we'll call it quits for now.
All right.
There was a bonus one in there that wanted to know if we ever do want to do more Alien films, like Alien or Predator.
Or even Close Encounters of the Third Kind or something like
or
that.
E.T.
Yeah.
E.T. Yeah, and that's an iconic movie
Predator
right there.
2
Oh.
with Danny Glover.
Dude, don't do that.
And Gary Busey. But yeah, any other final thoughts, comments, questions, or concerns about Saw?
Not at the moment. I mean, there is a... Oh, crap. Oh, man. Sorry, we've got the movie kind of going a little bit here and there. It's just kind of... Like I said, I just love how it's so basic, but yet introduces so much.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's just like a picture's worth 1,000 words. So, yeah.
So, we had a little impromptu change. We were going to talk Candyman next week, but I think we're going to save that for the release of Jordan Peele's Candyman next year or the year after. We might even throw Candyman up there as a bonus episode. But I think tomorrow with the release of, if you hear this on Monday night, Tuesday, October the 15th, is the release of Rob Zombie's new film, 3 from Hell. And if you think Saw was crazy, boy, I can't wait till you guys get a load of this next week. So we're going to talk 3 from Hell next week, which is all dedicated to the brand new Rob Zombie film, which was also the
last film of...
Yeah. Which is the final film of Sid Haig. So next week's episode is dedicated all to Rob Zombie's 3 from Hell. So other than that,
I'm saying this is Edward, and I'll see you on the silver screen.
This is Zach signing out.
All right, guys, and you can catch us next week and every Monday on Spotify, Podbean, YouTube, and Anchor. Don't forget, email us at cinemen921@gmail.com. That's cinemen921@gmail.com. Also, hit up the Facebook page at facebook.com/movie reels, REELZ 405, or just Facebook search the Cine-Men Movie Podcast. And we will see you guys next week right here on the Cine-Men Movie Podcast.